Welcome to the December Galileo Monthly Update. It's myself, Warren Ingram, and Theo Forster. Theo, it's been, I can only describe it as a mighty year. I mean, I think so much has happened right around the world. And I think when we started the year, it was more than, I think it was about 3/4 of the world's population was going to be voting in an election of some form or another on a national basis. And now we're through, I think, all of them. I think it's pretty much done. And there have been some surprising outcomes.
Yes, I think, Warren, hello, it's, can you believe at the end of the year, the years just go quicker and quicker the older you get. But let's go back. You're right, most of the world's democracies had an election. And the vast majority of people that lives in democratic countries went to the polls. Two principles that came through. Incumbents were punished. In most cases, even in South Africa, the ruling party support dropped handsomely to such extent that they had to go into a government of national unity, which incidentally I think is great news for South Africa. In America, the Democrats got punished. In the UK, the Conservatives got punished. And you can go through all the countries in the world. They got punished because what happened in the last 2 to 3 years around inflation, around interest rates, but the key message was whoever was in power got punished. The second point is there's a move against professional politicians. Not so much in South Africa. Unfortunately, everybody's a professional politician in South Africa, but in the rest of the world, that was the second theme. Professional politicians got punished. So those two elements came through these elections. What also was positive in South Africa and in the rest of the world, in all the bigger democracies, the results were peaceful, transitions of power was peaceful, and democracies worked in the bigger countries. But out of that, Warren, America is the biggest country in the world. They're the biggest economy. The American markets are the biggest markets in the world by a long shot. America is a dominant player not only in the geopolitical landscape, but in the world of financial markets, investments. And America has a Donald Trump as president for the next 4 years. Your view on that?
I think Donald Trump is a symptom rather than a cause. So I think a lot of people are looking at this and saying, but how could the Americans choose that man? Some people are saying, I can't believe we've got Donald Trump. It's amazing. Thank goodness, etc. But I think it's a sign that mature, let's say more Western democracies, the promise of democracy is not working out. You know, if you're a young person going into America and you did your part of the deal, your part of the deal is you go to varsity, you take on enormous student debts because varsity is expensive, you get your degree, the promise is you're going to get a great job, you're going to be able to afford a house, afford to have your own children and give them a quality of life. What's happening is the people entering the job market that might be 25 to 35 years old, their quality of life is worse than their parents. The promise of progress is no longer there. They're going backwards. And they're going backwards at a rate because they've got enormous debt, because of that, and it wasn't reckless spending. They were doing their job. They were getting degrees. They're borrowing money to spend on their education. That's what they're supposed to do, and the things are not working. And they're looking at the professionals, as you said, the professional politicians who keep ignoring them as far as they are concerned. And so the system is not working for the people who need the system to work most. And whether you're in Canada or the UK, where your health systems are starting to creak, the promises of that sort of better life for all are just not there. And so any other alternative is being considered. And I think there is some good with the change, as always. There is some bad, because autocratic tendencies are starting to come in some very democratic countries. And so I think, Theo, we're looking at a big social change. And it feels to me, I wasn't I wasn't alive, firstly, post-World War II, but then if you look at the Vietnam era, then the collapse of the Berlin Wall, all of that was a time of major change. We're living in it right now. And I think it's having reverberations around the world. Sorry, it's a long answer, but there's a lot going on. I also think you're right that America is the dominant political and economic power, but that's not the status quo for the future. I think we need to understand that the geopolitical power is shifting, And I think it's a mistake to say that that means the end of America. It's just the end of America as the sole power. That maybe into the future, a country like India, a country like China will be balancing things out again. And it feels okay to me. I think people are so concerned when the situation changes. They don't like the change. But at the same time, the world needs to be balanced. And for at least 2 decades, it wasn't balanced because America dictated. Now it doesn't have the ability to dictate. I suspect Donald Trump will change that even more because he's not going to be interested in what's going on in the rest of the world. So I think, Theo, we're in this major change. I want to highlight one thing. You and I became far more kind of involved in politics than we ever wanted to because we were being asked questions around what's going to happen in South Africa with the elections and all of those things. It's boring for us because we have to talk about politicians who we don't love. What I need to say is that point you made around a peaceful transition, I think we didn't come close to war or anything like that, but gee, the outcome could have been terrible if the ANC had turned around and said, we don't recognize this election. And so that sharing of power is now happening, and it's noisy and it's messy, and we don't like it because it's not perfect all the time. We need to understand it's a phenomenal change, and it happened without any noise. And I think we need to be really grateful for that.
Coming back to the whole situation looking forward and trying to make predictions, because I think that's where people get it wrong. And I think that the case in point is everybody has a view on America or on politicians. But the point is that view cannot be the premise of an investment decision, purely because the prediction of that outcome is almost impossible.
So we're one of the questions you and I are answering all the time now is, okay, so Donald Trump's in power, and then someone usually says, I believe that means that. That means that tariffs are going to be there and he's going to destroy global trade, or it's America first and that's going to be terrible, or he's going to cut taxes and the American economy is going to go into kind of a decline because of debt, for example, but businesses will do well. The thing we need to know about Donald Trump is there are 3 outcomes from here, and we don't have a clue. We're telling you right now, we don't know which one's going to happen. One is that he's going to deliver on what he said he's going to do. 2, he's going to do the exact opposite of what he said he's going to do. Or 3, he's going to do some of what he said he's going to do, and he's going to claim a great victory. And I think all 3 of those are going to happen. I don't know exactly where, what, and how, but I keep thinking back to the one slogan he had in the previous election was, I'm going to build the wall and I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. He didn't build, there's no massive wall going right across the bottom of America, and sure as heck, Mexico didn't pay for it. So let's be very careful of saying Trump's in power, that means X. What we're saying is Trump's in power and things are going to be uncertain, they're going to be volatile, we don't know the outcome. And the only antidote to that from an investment point of view is proper diversification, make sure that you've got exposure to America, equally that you've got exposure away from America. Make sure you've got exposure to the tech sector, which is extremely expensive, and it could become even more expensive, but you've got exposure away from the tech sector. So I think we're learning a little bit of humility as we get older and saying we know we don't know, and we're okay with that.
I can make one prediction about Donald Trump, and I'll make that prediction. Like all politicians, they don't fulfill their promises. They fulfill some of them, some they ignore, and some new promises they claim to have made. But the problem with that prediction is, first of all, you have to predict what he is going to do or what's going to happen. Then you have to predict to what extent the market is already discounting that or not. And then you have to predict the market outcome based on the discounting or not. So you have to get all these three things right, and it becomes a lottery. Early this year in January, we did an incredible detailed analysis of the big asset managers' predictions of the year to come. That means what will happen in 2024 in terms of interest rates, in terms of currencies, in terms of inflation, and in terms of markets. And I'm telling you now, nobody got it right. And those that got it right got one of the 4 right, maybe 2 of the 4. And those that got the other 2 right got these 2 wrong. So the ability to predict is not a sound basis for decisions. But also, we have to appreciate the world's changed. Last year, this time, we were talking about other stuff. It just shows you how things have changed.
I mean, let's maybe go there. So the other thing we had to become kind of pseudo experts on was the state of electricity. It feels to me like every few years there is a theme. So it was. I mean, we had the pandemic, and then we had to start understanding what a pandemic was, what was flu and what wasn't, and all of those things. And then we had to spend a lot of time understanding South Africa's electricity system. Because that was a major theme, and correctly, it was a real problem in the economy, and then understanding what was going to happen. And what's fascinating for me now is when things go right, the questions end. And that's what's happened now. We're not talking about Eskom. You and I are not answering questions from our clients about what's happening with the state of the energy system. And that's a good sign, because actually you shouldn't be worrying about your power. But what is happening is people are discounting anything else going right. And I mean, discounting is a financial term. What's happening is we would say, okay, we think Eskom may not get fixed correctly, but the power situation will get fixed because of private sector. And usually when we give that answer, someone will say, yes, but. So what's happened now is Eskom got fixed to a degree, and private came in, and it's now working. And when we say that to people, what we're getting is, yes, but Transnet's not working. Yes, but the water situation's not correct. Yes, municipalities are not working. All as an answer to South Africa can't get fixed. South Africa can't go well because of the problems that we can see today. And what we're saying is, we're not forecasting that they are going to get fixed and when and exactly how. What we're saying is, look at Eskom as the poster child for things do come right. And when they do come right, you need to understand that that has a very positive economic impact. And that's really my comment now is, South Africa, we're experts from an investment point of view, all of us, private investors, professional investors, we're expert on our problems. We all know our problems. They're so obvious to see. What we're not good at is saying that actually that things can get better. And it's absolutely relevant to our investment decisions, because we would never say to someone, take all of your money and send it all out of the country, because things can go right. And when things go right, it becomes economically rewarding for you. And that's what's busy happening. Things are going well. A company like Pick n Pay will take a division and list that division on the stock exchange. And that division happens to be called Boxer. And for a lot of our clients, they've never even been aware of Boxer before. It lists, it's much more valuable than Pick n Pay. That's a great success. It's very rewarding. And if you've got all of your money out of the country, you're not exposed to those kinds of opportunities which are starting to flow. And so I think just to say to everybody watching, be careful of totally discounting South Africa because of the very obvious problems. We do have water problems. We're not ignoring that. That what we're not saying is that they won't be fixed. They can be fixed. Transnet can be fixed. It doesn't have to be fixed to become perfect. It has to be slightly better for it to have a huge economic impact. Eskom is the example of how that's starting to work, and the whole power situation is starting to work.
I think it comes back to the point that we in this world of continuous news, of social news, of hot air, of opinions. And the fact that people express opinions doesn't mean they are right or wrong. You need to look at the source of who's giving that opinion and on what are they basing that opinion. And that makes it difficult for somebody to navigate through the noise. But I think the principles is, and I agree with you, diversification, don't predict. And then I'll add, be very careful to focus too much on short-term bad news, on the noise, because that will lead to an emotional decision, and 9 out of 10 times that's a wrong decision. But Warren, this is the end of the year. From my side, thank you very much. I think it was a great year from a financial market point of view, and I do think that also shows the value of a long-term focus and to look through the year. So, and from a client's perspective, all the clients, all the people watching, thank you very much. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for listening to us. And just thank you for being part of the team, being part of us trying to achieve your goals with you and achieve our goals of being sustainable and being able to support you. Warren, and from my point of view, thank you very much.
So thank you, Theo, and thank you to all our people in our business that as you said, the clients that support us. And I think it must be quite hard to listen to us sometimes when we keep saying to you, stick to diversification, stick to your principles. We're not changing your portfolio. But in a year like this is the reason why. It's because markets do correct. Markets do give you the returns they're supposed to eventually. And when we say we don't know, it is true. But what we do know is that good diversification, sticking to a strategy does work eventually. So thank you for your support. Thank you for believing in us. We look forward to the year ahead. We don't know what's going to happen, but we'll be here with you along the way to help you make the right decisions as they need to be made.